Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Jacksonian from yours truly, Jackson Johnson. And I have with me is the South Carolina beat writer from GamecockScoop at Rivals, the one and only himself, Alan Cole, as we go over our take on what's been going on with the South Carolina Gamecocks throughout the football season, how they're doing in college basketball, and so much more, including the Citrus Bowl preview against the Illinois Fighting Illini. And let me tell you something, folks, it's gonna be a wild ride. How you doing today, good buddy?
Good, doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just getting ready for Christmas and all that stuff, and probably gonna catch up on some sleep here and there.
Yeah, it sounds about right. Same.
Well, I can tell you this though: if you ever feel like you're having a bad day, there's always the contestants on Jeopardy that got Final Jeopardy wrong on Super Bowl history. The team that made it to a Super Bowl before the Neil Armstrong moon landing and hasn't made it back since. It's who are the
The
Jets?
Jets, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
Yep.
like it was that simple. It's like they got it wrong. Like good grief. It's like oh man. But for those who don't know about you, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I cover South Carolina athletics for Rivals. Been doing that 2.5 years now. I'm finishing my third football season here. Coming up at the Citrus Bowl next week. I was on one of these before, I guess in October, before Alabama or before South Carolina went to Alabama to play what ended up being a pretty tight game there. Yeah, just get into some of what the season was for South Carolina.
Oh man. And as we started off, it looked like it was going to be a bad start, and it looked like the year was going to look like that. Somebody forgot to tell them that because they don't let anybody get in their heads, and especially Shane Beamer. I love the job he's been doing this season, and I know that there are some people knocking him down, and it's like, well, what's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? I always say stick with stability because if you stick with somebody for a few years, you put your faith in the guy that you signed a let him sign a contract with, you're good to go. And yeah, what was your take on this season, Alan?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think Shane Beamer was ever in any trouble in the administration or with people there, people who know what's going on. I get it. Fans were frustrated. You start 3-3, you lose a couple close games to LSU and Alabama there. I understand it, but no, this has ended up being one of the better years really in South Carolina history. If they win the bowl game, that's 10 wins. They've only done that 4 times ever in the history of the program. Even 9 wins, they've only done that 7 times. Right now, they're on a 6 game winning streak. You start 3-3, and they haven't lost since. You run through, was it Oklahoma, A&M, Vandy, Missouri, Wofford, and Clemson to end the year? A rivalry win always goes down well here. You do it the way they did it with a last-minute touchdown. I think the vibes right now here are about as high as they've been in the Shane Beamer era, and probably going back to the Steve Spurrier era. Really, it's been a while since it's looked this good at South Carolina.
Well, I've got a great feeling about it. I could see them having like a 10-win season in the future because honestly, that's where they're going. I know that the 2011 through 2013 run unfortunately didn't result in going to a BCS bowl because of stupid rules they had, I guess. And they didn't have the Cotton Bowl as a BCS bowl, which I thought that was pretty dumb. But in this case, you go 10-2 in the SEC, you're in the playoffs.
Yep. I think that's possible in the future. Look, I think the big takeaway from this year is as long as you have Lenore Sellers, you're going to have a chance of doing a lot of pretty special things. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in the second half of the year. Just an amazing, amazing month of November. He's only a redshirt freshman. You're going to have him again next year. I think as long as you have Sellers here, you have a good chance to score a lot of points in any game, and of course, that gives you a good chance to win.
Yeah, I was thinking about where after they had that close loss to Alabama in Tuscaloosa, chips are looking down, but we see Shane Beamer coming back to Norman, Oklahoma for the first time since he left to be the head coach South Carolina. And before they smacked Oklahoma 35-9. What was the mindset at that time?
I think it was a lot of frustration. I think everybody in that building still thought they had a pretty good team. Like I said, they lost a 3-point game to LSU and a 2-point game to Alabama. That just, I think the term Shane Beamer said is they're just sick of it. Like they know they're better than 3-3, and they're going to go take it out on someone. And they went to Oklahoma that day. They scored 3 touchdowns in the first 5 minutes, went up 21-0, and it took their frustrations out on Oklahoma. So I think it was a pretty angry team going into that Oklahoma game. And they kind of channeled that anger in the right way for the second half of the year.
Well, and after that 6-game winning streak that the Gamecocks went on, um, they were left out of the playoffs. Has there been like any frustration? We've heard a lot about Alabama being frustrated, but we haven't heard anything from Ole Miss and South Carolina as a whole, or Miami as well.
I think there is definitely frustration just because you always want a shot at it. You always, they understand. They lost 3 games. They lost 2 head-to-head games to Alabama and Ole Miss in October. I think it's disappointment. I think a lot of people I think nationally wanted to watch a guy like Lenora Sellers in the playoff too, just with how well he's playing right now, and how hot South Carolina's been as a team. But I think they kind of understand it. And look, Shane Bieber said in one of his speeches, press conferences after that, they left it in the committee's hands, and if he won one more game, it wouldn't have been that. So I think it's just like the Oklahoma thing, though. They're going to use that as some frustration and try to take it out on Illinois here next week.
Well, there we go. And speaking of next week, New Year's Eve, got ourselves the Citrus Bowl between the Illinois
Mm-hmm.
Fighting Illini and the South Carolina Gamecocks. How are you feeling about this game? What's something we need to look out for from both teams?
Yeah, I think it's as it has for a lot of times. Pretty much any game you watch is line of scrimmage. I think South Carolina's D line's mostly going to stay intact. Kyle Kennard is opting out to get ready for the draft. Going to be a first round pick, but all those other seniors, those D tackles, Dylan or Boogie Huntley, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, they're all going to play. Dylan Stewart's obviously going to play. I think it comes down to South Carolina's D line against what has been a pretty good Illinois front. Illinois has been able to run the ball, has been able to get some push most of the year. So it's not really an exciting take, but it is a line of scrimmage game. It usually is. And I'm kind of looking at what South Carolina's defensive front could be able to do in this game.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to see what happens in that one. Illinois, I've seen a little bit of them this year. We know that they pulled off a victory against Michigan in the 100th anniversary of the Red Grange game. That was a classic right there. And I mean, it's not every day you see them on CBS.
Yeah. I think just with Illinois, you know what it's going to be, right? It's a Brett Bielema coach team. It's that same system. They like to run the ball. They're going to be good up front. They're going to be well disciplined. Look, you don't win 9 games by accident, especially in the Big Ten, playing the schedule they did. So it's going to be a tough game. It's 2 teams trying to get a 10th win, and should be good.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun to watch, see what happens, what won't happen. I mean, it's like New Year's Eve's gonna be really fun. I mean, because like people are gonna be talking a little bit about Boise State going against the winner of Penn State, SMU, but I'm thinking about Alabama, and Michigan, whether Bama can get revenge against Michigan, South Carolina, Illinois, and the Sun Bowl with Louisville, Washington. That's a pretty fun slate. It's like getting a little bit of Christmas gifts on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's a good set of games there. And then obviously you've got the 3 playoff games the next day on the first. It's going to be a good couple days of football there.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be exciting. But of course, we've got the 2025 schedule that was announced. Well, the SEC part of it, the non-conference. Well, everybody else set for 7 or 8 teams. So we got South Carolina. Yeah, go away, ad. Don't you hate it when those ads get in the way? Well, there's the non-con slate, of course, but right between the non-con games are the conference schedule. How are you feeling about it? And do you miss seeing Georgia on there?
I do. I think it's fun to have games like that. I think the fans like them. It's weird to me that it's not there. I understand why it's not there. I understand the way they're doing it with the 8 games right now. To me personally, yes, I'm sure there's some people who would just rather not play that game because it's usually a loss for South Carolina. But I like rivalry games. I think it's fun. As for how I think about the schedule, I think it breaks pretty well just in the way that it starts, at least on paper, a little bit softer. You get Vanderbilt at home in that first conference game. Missouri's tough, but they're going to be replacing a quarterback and a lot of, I mean, at least their top 2 wide receivers. So getting them early is better than getting them late. And then Kentucky's pretty much lost their whole offense to the portal right now, and that's your first 3 SEC games. So if you can win that game against Virginia Tech and Atlanta, that neutral site game week 1, I think you have a chance at least to maybe start 5-0 going into that first bye week. And then it gets really tough in that middle portion there. LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, those middle 4 games. But yeah, I think it's kind of backloaded, but you have a chance to get off to a pretty good start here for South Carolina.
Well, in Oklahoma, it looks like they're going to be fixing their offense because they
Mm-hmm.
got Ben Arbuckle becoming the new OC. And Alabama, you could be catching them in a trap game because it's basically the week after the third Saturday in
Mm-hmm.
October. And Ole Miss, who knows with them? I mean, it's they could have a good day or they could have a bad day.
It's
But
gonna be tough on the road though.
oh yeah. But you get LSU in Baton Rouge at Tiger Stadium, you're in trouble, unfortunately.
That's the thing. It's just you got to manage that middle part of the schedule. Even 2-2 in those. If you win all the other games, like you said earlier, you can get in at 10-2. But it's those middle 4 games in between the bye weeks that's going to be make or break for them.
I personally hope that South Carolina can get revenge against LSU. That would be pretty neat.
That's the one everybody here wants back. I mean, they just didn't play well against Ole Miss. It happens. It was a bad day. It was their only really bad day of the season. And Alabama was a 2-point game. But the LSU game, I think a lot of people here feel like they were the better team that day. Just Lenore Sellers got injured right before halftime, didn't play the whole second half. There were a couple questionable officiating decisions, as I'm sure you know, when you lose a game by 3 points, that might have put you in the playoff.
Oh yeah. That is like it really sucks when you come up short, but it is what it is, I guess. But we saw that there's some new staff additions, and it's former Alabama coach, the son of Don Shula, the one and only Mike Shula, becoming the offensive coordinator. How are you feeling about it? And matter of fact, how is South Carolina Nation feeling about Mike Shula becoming the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because he was on staff this year he started as an analyst and they kind of made him assistant quarterbacks coach after the NCAA allowed analysts to have, coaching titles. So he was already on staff. He was already working with Lenora Sellers, and I think people here are generally happy about the continuity. They lost Dowell Loggins, their old OC, to Appalachian State. He became the head coach, and it was just so good to end the year. It was so efficient on offense. It was just looking better and better every week. I think people wanted someone who already is familiar with the offense, has a good relationship with Lenora Sellers, and you don't want to start over after a good year. You don't want to have to completely change the offense. So I think people are happy that they got Shula in, they kept him in, promoted him to OC, and he already has that relationship with Sellers. He's worked with similar, running quarterbacks. He's with Josh Allen in the NFL. He was with Cam Newton for a little bit. So I think people are generally happy about it, and I think it's a good fit. Just you got to keep Lenora Sellers comfortable with what he's been doing. Just it worked too well to change it. So I think for that reason, going internal instead of an outside hire was probably a good idea.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea, because like we want to see what they can do in the 4 game stretch, as you mentioned, from October 11th to November 1st. That is going to be a good one right there. I'm
Yeah, I
curious
think.
to see how,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious to see how it'll work out. I hope it works out for him. And I did have some pretty hard feelings on Mike Shield when I was a little boy, but as I've gotten older, I'm just like, had we not had the bad years, then there wouldn't have been good years.
It happens. I think Mike Shula's learned. He was talking. I guess it was Monday here about just learning from it, and you learn from the good, you learn from the bad. This is where he is now. He's had some good experiences in the NFL, and obviously now he gets a chance to call plays for what I think is going to be a pretty good offense in 2025.
Yeah, that's gonna be really fun right there. But, we've been looking at a little bit about the college basketball schedule, and how about Tuesday night against Clemson?
Yeah,
Like, how about showing those Tigers who's boss of the
that
state?
was just an unbelievable game. South Carolina men's basketball beats Clemson in overtime, 91-88. Um, you pulling up the schedule there. Obviously, you lose the opening night game in North Florida. That's going to put you behind the eight ball all year. But it's been pretty good since then. They've taken care of business. 2 losses to ranked teams there. One of them on a neutral floor, one on the road. And right now, I think they're playing about their best basketball of the year, which obviously they're going to have to be because 2 more games in non-conference. Then after the new year turns over, it's SEC play, and it's as you know, the SEC right now is as good as it's ever been. So that's going to be a brutal schedule here coming up starting in 2025.
Oh, yeah, this looks pretty scary right there. I mean, the first 2 conference games alone, you got Alabama and Auburn coming to your backyard.
Yeah, well, that's 2 of the first 3 because they're at Mississippi State for the first one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mississippi State, that's trap game zone right there.
Yeah, road game too.
That's gonna be ugly. So, what would be the record to ensure that South Carolina gets in March Madness this year?
To me, I don't even think it's just South Carolina. I think any team who goes, you get an 18 game SEC schedule there, at least 9-9 is going to get in. Just because if you win 9 SEC games, your resume is going to be good enough elsewhere. Um, I just think with how deep the league is, and the league probably going to get probably 11 or 12 teams in the tournament. If you can win 9 games in this conference, you're a tournament team. So what would that be overall? That would be ninth. They're what are they right now? 8-3
8 and
right now.
3.
So
8 and
probably
3.
beat Radford and Presbyterian there. That's 10-3, and
Uh-huh.
then 9-9 in the league would get them to 19-12. I think that would probably do it if they can get those
Yep.
9 SEC wins.
Yep, 19 and 12, and you get a couple of wins in the SEC tournament. You're in, kid.
Yeah, I think you got to get to that 9 regular season though. It's going to be tough under 500 in the conference to get in that large bid.
So I see that Mississippi State is on there twice.
It's Mississippi State, Georgia, and I think Florida, the teams they get twice this year.
Yeah, because I don't see Alabama
No,
being
it's
a
just the one
second.
with Alabama, just the one with Auburn, Tennessee. Um, I mean, it's going to be tough no matter what. The league's just so good, 1 through 16 this year. No matter everybody's got to play 3 teams twice. No matter who your 3 are, it's going to be tough.
Oh yeah, I've been curious about Indiana. Like it's like they go from smacking South Carolina, but then they're not doing so hot. I mean, they get smacked by Nebraska,
Yep.
Louisville. Like, good lord. Oh well
I feel
for
like one of the
them.
losses is going to age for South Carolina.
Oh yeah. You can't lose to North Florida, but
That's the one. Yep.
that will hurt. That
It's just
that's gotta
bad
hurt.
night, first game of the year. Just off night a little bit, lose a game by 3 points, but that's going to stick all year for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be looked at a lot in the Joe Lenardi bracketology post on ESPN. Like, because I'm seeing it now where it's like, oh, South Carolina bubble watch. Oops, that opening loss to North Florida.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But all that's gotta happen is you get more big wins. That'll cancel out that bad
I
loss.
still think it's 9. I think it's 9 SEC wins would be enough to get him in there.
Agreed. And for me, I always look at it. It doesn't matter like that you lost the game that you shouldn't have. It matters what you've done since then. Like it
Mhm.
does matter that you lost the game you shouldn't have, but it's just if you rattle off 9, 10 straight wins, people will forget about the bad loss in time. That's something I've learned throughout my whole life. Like, it's not just like that in the sports world. It's like that with a lot of things in life. Yeah, it's like
That
when you
yeah.
do. Oh yeah. What were you gonna say, Alan?
No, I just like that's why you never want to lose a game like that. But if you have to lose one, it's do it on opening night because you literally have the entire season after that to make up for it.
Agreed. And like Notre Dame, I know that a lot of people have forgotten about that Northern Illinois loss. Like back when they lost, it was just all over, and you could see Thomas Hammock on every show you could find. He was on, like, Barstool Sports, he was on Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, he was even on that Jason Whitlock guy's show, like, I forget the name of that show, but he was, like, all over any show you could find, but then Northern Illinois let that game go to its head, and they have a losing record in conference play.
And then on the flip side, Notre Dame's won every game since pretty convincingly, and they're playing in a playoff game here in 3 hours, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, like they've gone on a 10-game winning streak, and yeah, it's been amazing in the regular season. And obviously, of course, like the reason why we're not talking about the playoff result because it's pre-recorded. so, so it's like we're not from the future, but we're getting there someday. Oh man, but could be worse. Could be in really cold weather, like the Ice Bowl, like 1967. That was some cold days right there.
I mean, you were talking about basketball. Alabama played at North Dakota the other night.
Holy, that's scary. Like, I mean, that's cold. It's little fella like me can't handle cold. I don't know how you can. I don't know if you can handle cold, but it's like I'm just gonna
Probably
be
not
like
that
I'm
much
making,
cold.
huh?
Probably not that cold. I think it was like 5 degrees there or something, they said.
Oh wow, 5 degrees. I don't think I can handle 5-degree weather. Oh man. But what's something you're really looking forward to? Like what are like the keys to victory for South Carolina to beat Illinois? Like what do they have to do?
Yeah, I already mentioned the D line. Um, I think they're going to have to force maybe a turnover against a quarterback who really, I think Luke Altmaier for Illinois has only thrown 5 interceptions all season. He's been very
Oh
good
yeah.
at taking care of the ball. So you got to find a way to get after that a little bit. And then the running game, I think there's a bit of a question on if Rocket Sanders is going to play. He declared for the NFL draft. We don't know yet, but you got to find a way, whether it's some of these other running backs, Oscar Attaway or Jordan Howell or any of those guys like that. You got to find a way to get some running game going. I think they are the more talented team, and they do have the better quarterback, which those two things usually go a pretty far way. But probably got to force a turnover somewhere, and you got to find a way to get a little bit of a running game going.
Agreed. And after discussing like the keys to victory and going over a little bit about the Citrus Bowl, what's your score prediction for that game?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of look at Illinois yet, but just from what I've seen, from what I do know, what I watched this season, and some research, I think South Carolina wins the game. I do think they're better. I'm going to say let's say 27-17, probably 10-point win.
That sounds pretty good. I
I
like
think
it.
favored by 8 or 9, so I'm about in that range.
Yeah, I believe they're favored by 8. I mean, they're it
8,
could
that's
be
where
a
it is right now.
little, huh?
So is that what it is right now? 8,
At the moment, it's 9.5.
9.5. Wow, it grew. Okay,
Yep.
interesting.
And the over under total is 47.5.
That sounds about right.
Oh yeah. But yeah, it was like I look back at Illinois' season. Like one of their games I thought about was the Kansas game, where after that, boom, they benefit from that stretch. And of course, there's that close game against Nebraska. Like some friends, Justin Adams at Nebraska at the Voice College Football, and Sonny Verma at Locked On Illini. They were doing a live stream on that game, discussing on the Big Ten show, and it was like Nebraska was getting all the bad luck. It's like they were like Charlie Brown at the pitcher's mound on the kicking game. It's
It was
like,
an overtime game, right?
yep, overtime, and Tim Brando was calling it on Fox.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. Yeah, but I mean, look, 2 of the 3 losses were to Illinois, or geez, to Illinois, to Penn State and Oregon. Those teams were in the Big Ten championship game. So, I mean, you know what you're going to get. Like I said, it's a Brett Bielema team. They're well coached. They're going to run the ball well. It's going to be physical, and South Carolina's going to have to play well to win.
Yeah, I was like, I remember watching like Alabama, Georgia that night in week 5. Like I'm watching it right here on the computer, and then like I'm watching Penn State, Illinois on my iPad on the Peacock app, keeping an eye on it. And I was like, why are people knocking down the Illinois win? I mean, that's a really good team. That's
Yeah.
a good team right there.
No, I agree. I think it's gonna be a good game in Orlando.
Oh yeah. And I get like Penn State doesn't really have an impressive resume, but still, that's still a good win right there. And let's see. Oh, 50-49 overtime game. That was wild.
Oh yeah, Purdue. Yeah, I think that was the day South Carolina played at Alabama.
Yep, at 11 a.m. And at that time, Penn State USC was on CBS. So that was a pretty wild day in all of college football right
Yep.
there. It's like, oh man. Well, I've got a good feeling like South Carolina, they're really gonna give Alabama trouble next year. I
I can see
would
that.
not. Oh yeah, because like this come from a Bama guy, like where I'm just like, I feel like South Carolina's waiting for us while we're having some fun with Tennessee. They're gonna be like, hey, you're forgetting about us.
South Carolina does have their own big game the week before that against Oklahoma, but yeah, I mean we got to see how the portal shakes out, how spring ball goes, all that stuff. But yeah,
Oh, agreed. And then the summertime where you get the Phil Steele magazine and the Lindy's
sure.
magazine. I mean, it's like it's not summertime unless it's Lindy's magazines out on Publix and in the grocery stores,
Yep.
and then you
Oh
get
yeah,
the Phil. It's like it's summertime.
for sure.
Oh man. So what are you thinking about? Like what was something you really like getting for Christmas? Because let's be real, like this show is close to Christmas now. It's like I figured, you know what, we can talk a little bit about that.
What do I want for Christmas? That's a good question.
Oh,
I don't know. I haven't even given it that much thought. I mean, people have asked me obviously, and I just kind of I don't need a whole lot right now. I'm going down to Orlando the 26th anyway to get ready for the bowl game, so I'm not really doing a whole lot this year like normal. But yeah, what are you doing for Christmas? Anything?
I'm probably gonna visit my grandparents on my dad's
There you
side
go.
of the family, and I'm probably gonna go see my grandmother, aunt, and uncle, and my dog Bear on my mom's side of the family.
There you go.
Check on Bear, see how he's doing. He's an old man, so it's like he's got some Wadmore Barkless treats coming for him.
Nice.
There you go. He's a happy dog, and I let him know that hey, there's everybody's wanting to know, see how you're doing. I know you've been sick pup, but everybody's
Yeah.
asking about you.
I
Oh
appreciate
man.
you having me on, and hope you
Oh,
have
here
a
we
great Christmas and a happy New Year and all that.
here we go. And for those who want to know about the magic that you're producing on Gamecock Scoop, where can they find you?
Yep, I'm at Allen underscore two underscores there. Cole on Twitter. You got all my stuff there. Rivals Gamecock and be down in Orlando here in about a week, putting all the content out, getting ready for that game, covering that game on the 31st, and then it's into basketball season once the calendar flips over to 2025.
Here we go. And you can also give Alan Cole a follow on Blue Sky. Give him a follow
Mm-hmm.
there, and you can get some top-notch takes on South Carolina athletics from Blue Sky as well from Mr. Alan Cole. And of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube, where I'm 109 subs away from that magic number 500. And of course, you can check me out on Alabama with the Voice of College Football Monday afternoons, where I host Crimson Tide Live with Johnny Burks as we discuss the latest news and notes of the Crimson Tide. And of course, Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, where Jeffrey at Only Talk Sports and myself take your calls discussing the Alabama Crimson Tide. And of course, there's the latest show today where Johnny and I had John D'Animo and TJ Ronan the host of Michigan at the Voice College Football, discussing the preview of the ReliaQuest Bowl. And it was a fun one, I can tell you right now. And for more updates on what I'm doing on the Jacksonian and what I'm doing with Will at the buzzer beater and Austin on the final whistle and pits analysis and on Alabama Voice College Football, give me a follow and check out, see what I have to say on Jackson VOCFB and Jackson Johnson 543908 on Instagram and Threads. And with that being said, wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays. Stay safe, stay warm. It's cold out. Like, comment, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss another video whatsoever. And we'll catch you soon. Take care, everybody.